talk about how people influence you in your lives, and of course, Mom and Dad were my biggest influencers, my biggest inspiration. Teaching was a part of our family history.
If there was one thing about my mom that I would want everybody to know, is that she was always a teacher. She taught me from day one up until, till the end.
I would say that she was the most loving person I've known. She was also very understanding. Even when we made mistakes, she would always correct us, but always have that love, like you're not going to be left out in the cold. My mom was very talented.
Grandma always encouraged us everything we ever did. They would always say that we could become anything we wanted to be. Then they would encourage us to how we could get better and do more. And so what I believe that the best thing they did, they gave me personally the ability to think big, to not have any limitations on my thought process, to dream big. And that's kind of what I always did as I was growing up. Grandpa and Grandma really set the groundwork for becoming a good businessman in life because of how they were able to just encourage me as a person as I'm growing up.
I believe that she tried to teach us about our faith. She tried to give us a good education because she was such a good educator herself, but it was important that your faith, your education, but most importantly is love. And I can tell you without question, my mother loved all of her kids.
You couldn't ask for a better mother-in-law in the world. I am truly, truly blessed. The day my mother died, which was, actually we lost both Mark's dad, my mother, and my dad within 15 months. And she was in Las Vegas at the time, and she called and said, well, you have two options. One, I can be mom, or you can be an orphan. And I said, I'll take the first one. And she said, okay, you're on. And that was really a nice way she had about her all the time. And she always just introduced me as her other son.
What brings our family special, I think it's Mom and Dad did that. They instilled in us family that now we have instilled in our kids.
Right at the very beginning with Mom and Dad, we always did things together as a family. We took vacations together.
There wasn't a question in my mind that my dad loved me. And I think what he taught was how to develop love with our kids.
They always led by example. So to show us how to be good parents, good grandparents, one thing they did was they would take the grandkids and do Spoiled Rotten Week. And the kids would basically be there for a week, one or two of them, and they could do pretty much whatever they wanted within reason. They'd go out for ice cream, they'd play putt-putt, they'd go fishing, play golf, whatever, go swimming. And so I think it's really nice because I know Leanne and John do this, and we do this with our grandchildren, is we have a Spoiled Rotten Week to carry on the tradition.
I actually think that was probably one of the neatest things that they came up with. It really left a wonderful impression on, my kids, as far as, creating a bond and a relationship between them. I also think that it's something that we do now that's really taught us how to, connect with our grandchild.
When I became a school teacher, there were 4 books that I would alternate every year. And I would read one of those books, Cry the Wolf being the biggest book. And she would come in after I was finished reading the book to the class and be the resident author. And the kids loved it.
If I was to use a couple of words to describe Grandma, I would say best friend for Leanne.
Whenever I had a problem, I could call her on the phone and she would listen. She would try to advise, or she would just listen. She was a pretty special mom. She was pretty lucky. I was pretty lucky. I think we all were, all my brothers.
Somewhere along the line, just growing up and being crazy, fun kids, we then started taking up swimming. We had got a swimming pool in the backyard.
I remember it was always a place, we were like the place for people to come in the neighborhood. Everyone would want to come to our home to swim.
I would say one of my best ones was the swimming pool that we installed, and we would be out there and swim all hours of the day and night, and had fun in that pool. Dad taught us how to swim, basically.
We became very competitive in actual real swimming. We took swimming lessons and became very competitive. We all swam a different stroke, I think, in order not to have to compete with each other directly. We all became quite good in our stroke. Matt would swim the freestyle, I would swim the backstroke, and your Uncle Mark would swim the breaststroke. Some of the things we did together as siblings in the same race, we would have, it's called a medley relay, and it turned out that I would lead off the relay with the backstroke. Mark would take off second as the breaststroke, and Matt would generally be the butterfly or the freestyler. We'd have to have a fourth person in there.
And one article I remember the most is when we had the only team, might have been in the country, but definitely in the state, where we had a relay that was Spencer, 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 Overfield. And so, of course, I had the most important leg of swimming. It was the freestyle. And then my brother Mike did the backstroke. He was okay with that. And then Mark did the breaststroke, which both Mike and I hated breaststroke. And we didn't have another brother, so Bob Overfield did the butterfly for us. And we actually went to the state meet, and I think we placed in the top 12. And we were 1 year Spencer, Spencer, Spencer. So that was kind of a cool memory.
And they came to all of our swim meets, and I never realized what a big thing that was until after I kind of grew up and became a school teacher and saw that not all parents do that.
It was rare they ever missed one single swim meet of our life. And every time I'd finish the race, I'm sure my other brothers did it too, but the first thing I would do is look up in the stands to see if Grandma and Grandpa were watching, to see had I won the race or if I'd lost the race, something like that. But it was kind of nice to know that I could always count on them being at every single event that ever I was at.
I had a lot of records. I swam a stroke that a lot of people swam, freestyle, and so at one point I owned 5, 6, or 7 of them, but as time went on, there was a couple kids that were a little faster than me as I got older, and they broke most of my records. But you'll probably hear my brothers say they still have records, and Mike in particular will say he owns all the records in backstroke.
The interesting thing is who really was the best. Well, we always have that little jousting back and forth all the time, but still to this day, there's only one of the 3 brothers that still has a record since 1976. I think that would be, 40 years now? Still holds the swimming pool record. In my opinion, that would identify who is the best swimmer, is if you still hold the record, I would think.
November 27th, 2004. Dear Leanne, our favorite daughter.
Both Mom and Dad, in my mind, being the eldest child, of course, the easiest to take care of, because I think I always follow the rules pretty much. Now, my brothers and sister might disagree.
Of course, I was the best child, obviously. You can ask any of my parents, say no, but
I don't like to embarrass the other kids, so I kind of let them have their way, let them think that way. But I kind of know deep in my heart that I'm probably Mom's favorite child.
I don't think we should name names.
no, Black Sheep wouldn't be the right name either, but the, what was it, the Free Spirit was the way it was classified as. He would always get in trouble, get caught for everything. And I will, it's my brother Mike, he knows it, so. But it did bring a lot of character to the family and a lot of things. And the time he tried to escape out the window with his friends, I thought he was sleepwalking and going out the bedroom window. And so I went and told Dad, and we went and caught Mike down at the bottom, and Mike was so mad at me because I had busted him for sneaking out the window. And I was just concerned of his safety, but he said I was, you know,
I don't think so. I think he was tattletaling.
Most biggest troublemaker was probably Matt, my brother. It turned out I was the one that got caught the most, so people might have thought that I was the one that was that was the troublemaker. Matt was the most, he just never got caught. And if anything ever happened to it, he'd always would tell, I would call him the tattletale, because he'd always tell Mom and Dad that I was the one that did it. And he was the one that really started it all. So he was probably the biggest trouble. He just never got caught as much as I did. I think it's someone being the middle child. Middle children get caught more often. Well, how we treated my sister, Leanne, we treated her very good. Now we want to prepare her for life, so we might have did things that she would have maybe said that we weren't being real nice to her, but.
And Leanne was the young one, so we all picked on Leanne. That was just our thing. Have to pick on Girly. We used to call her Girly.
I remember it like yesterday, the first time that I went up to the Reed Road house. And I'm a little bit nervous, although I knew Leanne was pretty sweet, so I figured everybody else was going to be pretty nice.
They were brutal to her. Brutal.
You were not brutal to our
You
sister.
were brutal.
If she had a boyfriend that we didn't care for a whole lot, we would make sure we had a good talking to that boyfriend so that he would not harm our sister.
I didn't realize that there was this whole big protective kind of approach that was going to be going on.
I mean, I would always chew on her ears, and I would kind of punch her in the stomach, and we always had a lot of fun.
But I walked in, and I knew within 15 minutes that Mom and Dad were going to accept me. The smile on Mom's face when she heard me calling Leanne by her name, and she even said, "John, I'm so happy you call her Leanne." And I said, "Well, what would I call her?"
One of the greatest things that I've been able to do in my life is been able to give the last 8 years of my life to helping our family take care of Mom. I've got 2 great brothers and a sister that have helped, along with their husband and wife, so it's been real nice to have that kind of help too, and along with Paul.
It was a big commitment, and when I look back, Mark had a dream of moving to Costa Rica and opening a bed and breakfast, and I wouldn't change that for the world. Our decision was right. It's the most important job I've ever had.
Every single time for the last 4 or 5 months, I'll kneel down next to her and I'll always tell her that I have something to tell her. And she'll say, "Well, what?" And I'll say, "Well, Mom, I want to let you know that I think I'm the luckiest guy in the whole world." And she'll go, "Oh?" And I said, "Do you know why?" And she never can remember why. And I always say, "Because I'm the luckiest because you're my mother." And she just gets the biggest look in her face, her eyes open up and she smiles and then gives me a kiss. So I've done that, and we'll do that to the very end, to be able to make sure I've always said my goodbyes.